All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over the online PDF book AppInventor2 Create Your Own Android Apps by Wolber, Abelson, Spertus, and Looney. I'm in the middle of Chapter 9, and I do have sound, that's the good thing. But now it says here if you tried out the preceding sounds to play note, you might have been disappointed by not hearing the sound you expected or by experiencing an error or unexpected delay. That's because Android needs to load sounds at runtime, which entails some lag before they can be played. Well, let's kind of listen to that so you can hear it. Sounds good up to here. Now listen. It sounds a little funky in those last three. All right, the first five sounded good, and the last three sound a little bit different. So it says here, this issue didn't come up earlier, all right, because file names placed in a sound component source property in the designer are automatically loaded when the program starts. Because we don't set the sound one source until after the program is started, that initialization process does not take place. So what we have to do is we have to specifically load the sounds when the program starts up. So I'm going to do that and see if it helps in the way the sound comes across. So let's go into our initialize. All right, and we want to come in here and we want to say set sound one source. So we want to set it 8 times, in other words. So the first time through, we want to set it to 1 dot wave. Don't know exactly what I just did right there, but that's okay. And I'm going to copy this, I'm going to duplicate it 8 times, and I'm going to just automatically change it right away so that I don't forget to do it later. So there's 2. Three. 4. 5. 6. 7. And finally 8. So now let's give it a try and see if it sounds a little bit more pure, for lack of better words. Still doesn't sound that note sounds a little funny. Now, it could be a lot of things. For example, it could be that it's just playing like it does in the WAV file. So let's go back and let's try something here. So let's open up. In fact, we'll just do them one at a time. See that? I don't think the 6.wave file sounds right. This sounds good. All right, as the saying goes, we're going to play the hand we're dealt. So we're going to use the files that are in here. But like I said, that one just sounds a little strange for whatever reason. So I've already gone through this where we've implemented the remaining notes. So they want E they want pink, orange, yellow. So let's do it in the what they have here. So pink, orange, and yellow. I know we have 2 yellows in a row. We'll change that in just a minute. All right, so pink, orange, yellow, green, cyan, and blue. All right, now that you see the colors, okay, what I want to do is I want to go back in the book to what we originally had at the beginning of the chapter. There it is, and I want to see if we can compare what we have in the emulator to that to see if we've got the right colors. And these two look off. It's gonna, okay. Well, you know as well as I do that the emulator has to reset itself. All right, and it's going to right now, evidently. There we go. So, let's map them right up to one another. Magenta, whatever you call that. Red, pink, orange, yellow, green, light blue, and blue. Play and reset. So it looks like we're right on with the way it looks in the book. Okay? Again, I didn't do it the order in which they did it in the book. I found that confusing. Now, ideally, you don't think that what I did made it even more confusing. And if you do, I apologize. All right, so we want to create click blocks for each of those. So I've got those, I've got that, I've got all that stuff done. All right, recording and playing back notes. Playing notes by pressing buttons is fun, but being able to record and play back songs is even better. To implement playback, we will need to maintain a record of played notes. In addition to remembering those pitches of the sound files that were played, we must also record the amount of time between notes, or we won't be able to distinguish between 2 notes played in rapid succession, or 2 played with a long silence in between them. So the app will maintain 2 lists, each of which will have 1 entry for each note that has been played. It'll have a list named Notes, which will contain the name of the sound files and the order in which they're played, and Times, which will record the points in time where the notes are played. All right? We need to add a clock component. I've already done that, so I've done that. I've got play button, I've got reset button. I did mine a little bit different, so that's theirs. And remember, ours looks like this. I put them each on their own line. I just like the way that looked a little better. All right. So we now need to add the correct behavior in the blocks editor. We will need to maintain lists of notes and times. So we want 2 new variables. So we're going to have one called notes and one called times, and we're going to create an empty list from each one of those. All right. Now, before we do that, or as we do that, I want to take what we have in here in our blocks editor, and I want to start, there's no reason we can't collapse all of these. Now, I want to make sure that when I do this, I would like to put them in order, just in case I have to do anything later, because right now it's very hard to tell what the order is. I don't want to add a comment. Okay, so those are all collapsed now. I want to collapse my initialize. Finally, I want to collapse my play note. And if you have not noticed, the one that I created myself is purple because it was a procedure that I've created, where the other ones are basically built in, for lack of better words, blocks. So they're more of a golden in color, whatever you want to call that color. All right. So we want to come in here. We want to add two new variables, notes and times. All right, so the first one is notes, and the second one is times. And we want to initialize both of those to creating an empty list. All right, I think that's what they were asking for on the page here. So, how the blocks work. As it says here, whenever a note is played, we need to say both the name of the sound file, and that'll be to the list notes list, and the instant in time at which it was played, and that'll be to the times list. To record the instant in time, we will use the clock1.now block, which returns the current instant in time to the nearest millisecond. These values are going to be obtained through the sound1.source and clock1.now blocks. So we have to add those. So as I have been doing, I'm going to blow this up a bit. I'm going to do a print screen to get a screenshot of it. I'm going to paste that in right here. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Oops. Wider and a little bit taller. There. That's everything. All right. So we want to go back to the play note, which is our procedure that we wrote. So that's the purple one here. So we want to expand that, and we have to take a look at what's here. All right. Set sound. Join, get wave. Okay, so now we've got to add some stuff in here. All right, so we want to add items to list twice. One there. And one there. Okay. This should be get global notes right here. And that's sound1.source here. And this second one is get global times and clock1.now. Is that a call clock1.now? No, I think it's just... Yes, it is. So I want to try to, as much as I can, map that up with this one. Play note, set sound1 source. Whoops, that stuff hasn't changed. All right. So add items to list, get global notes, sound1.source, get global times, clock1, and then our play. I believe that everything there now is correct. As it says, for example, if you play row, row, row your boat, CCCDE, the list would end up having 5 entries. All right, 1 dot wave, 1 dot wave, 1 dot wave, 2 dot wave, 3 dot wave. All right, let's just for the heck of it see how that sounds. All right. When the user presses the reset button, we want the two lists to go back to their original empty states. Because the user won't see any change, it's nice to add a small sound1.vibrate to indicate that the click key was registered. So we want to put all this stuff into reset. 3 things: 2 sets and a call. I don't think we have anything in our reset button currently. So again, when we do this, when we call the reset, we want to set global notes and global times both to an empty list. Is that just to create empty list? Yes, it is. So we want to do that, and we want to call sound1.vibrate for 50 milliseconds. All right. As a thought experiment, let's first look at how to implement note playback without worrying about timing. We could, but won't do this by creating blocks as shown in figure 913, which is here. All right. And if we did that, it says we'd have a variable count to keep track of the note in which we're currently on, a new procedure playback note, which plays that note and moves on to the next one. Code to run when play button is pressed. It sets the count to 1 and calls the playback unless there's no saved notes. So we could do this. All right. But we're not going to. Let's come back and talk about what we're going to do in just a couple minutes.